Welcome, everyone, to the October Local Planning Committee in Harwich. We have committee member Pete Gorey virtually. Pete, can you hear us? Yay. So, cool. So, yeah, we have to, when we do our votes, we'll have to do it by name to be compliant with all that, but we're glad you're here, Pete. Welcome. Barbara had a death in the family, so is not going to be with us this evening. So extend our condolences on behalf of the committee. She did submit the minutes, though, which was above and beyond, very kind of her. And we know Margot wasn't going to be with us this evening as well. So we're missing those two members. Someone want to volunteer to take minutes? In abstention? Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, for your own records, Jim, Jim is volunteering to take the minutes. Thank you. With that, the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from 9/5/2023 that were distributed before to the committee.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? So we need to vote by roll call. Would you like to start?
Aye. David?
Yep.
Aye, Bernadette.
Aye, Jim.
Aye, Joyce.
Aye, Garrett Curran.
Aye, Brian. Aye, Ed McManus.
Peter?
And aye, Pete. Thanks.
So I think just for the integrity of the minutes, this is a high call. Thank you for doing this. We have to know exactly who's here and how everyone voted.
Okay, good.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
And who forwarded the motion first? Ed?
Ed?
Yeah.
I seconded it.
Gotcha.
Thank you. We will switch a little bit of the order of the minutes for this evening. Everything is there, but Sharon has a personal commitment that she has to get to, so she asked that we put what was I on the minutes, the formal survey questions, a little higher. So let me just bang a few things out on the agenda, and then we'll get to it. Yeah, and make yourself comfortable, Sharon, please. So a few things, just so we're not drowning in minutia. Last meeting in beginning of September, we were made a presentation to the Board of Selectmen. Sharon and I, thank you, Brian, for your tactical support, which was outstanding in terms of distributing our pop-up survey cards and things like that. Was well received. We had some questions. It generated an article of coverage to our whole process in the Chronicle, if anyone saw that. That's just a follow-up to that. I don't know if there's any points of discussion or questions about that.
No.
Hearing none. Moving on to item C on the agenda, the Cranberry Harvest Festival was rained out. Rain dates of October 21st and 22nd. Brian, you want to, since you brought in our sign.
Yes, this is the sign that Sharon made for us, and that's what we're going to put on the pedestal. And I also have a box of additional cards that we'll have available. And there's plenty in there, so if anybody wants to grab any tonight before they leave, feel free to grab some. And I've put, well, I shouldn't say I, we have put a sign-up sheet
It's
on.
all we for the committee.
So
Yes.
we're going to need to sign up for slots to sit at the table for the October date. So
21st and 22nd, right? And so we can revisit that, signing up for that. I will distribute that. I have candy. Thank you for getting us the table. That's lovely. Item D on the agenda. Garrett, if you want to give us an update.
Yep, so if anybody's visited the website, it has been updated. We've added the survey link that follows the page on the local comprehensive committee page. They also updated a kind of the mission statement that we sent over to the commerce team, and we can edit it relatively easily if we have things to add or take out. So feel free to check it out, and if we have feedback, we can edit as needed. But as far as the survey, the town does not have a survey tool that they prefer or use, or we have access to that they're already paying for. So they recommended the Google survey tool, which is what we're already using. There might be some alternatives that we can figure out how to do it. I don't know. I've got some that I know of, but I'm sure Brian does too.
I think, well, it's certainly open for discussion. I think the recommendation from the town administrator is that we can purchase, the IT department on behalf of the town can purchase a tool that, for our formal survey, that we can, is a little more rigorous than Google form,
Yep.
with some, middle-of-the-road data analytics and things like that.
Yep.
Graphing ability and things like that. So that's actually on my list of things to do to re-engage with IT.
Cool. So I can help
would-
you with that too. if
Thank you,
want.
that would be awesome.
Yep.
But I know it's been a long-standing goal of the committee to have our website more current, so thank you.
So if somebody's looking for us,
Yes.
what do they do?
Looking for us, like trying to find my house.
Trying to find out what is this committee up to?
Yeah.
So on the webpage, the landing page itself explains our mission statement, how we were formed, how to essentially get in touch with either the chair,
Lists all of us.
lists all of us by name. Also, I did notice a new name on there,
Oh,
which I did
Have
not.
a new member?
It
Not that I
doesn't have a member next to it, but there is a name on there, so I don't know if it was a.
as of yesterday, I didn't see that,
I
but I'll
didn't
have
know
to
if the
look.
board
Okay,
selected
not that
a
I've heard.
member that I
Okay.
wasn't aware of.
So is this on the town website?
Yeah,
Yes.
so the
Okay, I'm
LPs,
gonna look.
the local planning committee, actually, I Google it a lot to make sure our minutes are posted. We have a landing page on the town website. It lists us, it has our minutes, it has our agenda, it now has our mission statement, thank you to Garrett. It has a link to the pop-up survey card, right?
Yep, the survey card's on the left, and it will follow you if you click through the
Right.
pages. It will continue to follow you there.
So it has our 3 pop-up visioning questions.
Your board members. though.
Yeah,
Joe
Joan.
McCarty, for some reason, Caleb, I talked to you about this before. For some reason, Joan McCarty, who's on the library board with me,
Oh.
everywhere I'm supposed to be, for some
Oh.
reason, her name keeps getting put on things, so.
Joan?
To my best knowledge, Joan has not
Yeah,
joined this
she's not on
committee.
us.
A while ago, I had noticed.
Okay.
She's
Yeah.
a longstanding citizen about town, but I
Yeah,
don't think she has
and she's
anything.
a
Well,
library
Joan,
trustee.
if you're listening, feel free to come by.
I got confused.
No, you can, if you don't mind checking, in, yes, and updating that, and identifying yourself
Probably
as the
just
vice
carry
chair
that.
on it would be lovely as well.
I think
And so, to the point of, as we're getting, or continuing getting our word out there, which I think we're doing quite successfully,
Project.
this is actually a point of, it's related to D on the agenda. A point of discussion, I think we should take a formal vote for the committee. There is definitely, both at the Board of Selectmen meeting, in our engagement, online, on social media, sincere gratitude on behalf of the community to thank you for listening, and please share the results with us. So my point for discussion, and I would be in support of, not only do we have the pop-up questions, the 3 questions on that website, to your point, so people can get there and find it in a different way. At some point, I think it would be appropriate to share in aggregate, since it's de-identified, the answers, what people said to the 3-question pop-up. And I think that goes a long way to integrity and transparency, and we can post it on the website. But it's open for discussion. We should probably take a formal vote on that.
Yeah, I think I did a little bit of like just basic fun analytics with some of it,
Yeah.
like semantic analysis, and I sent it
Which we
over.
shared, yep.
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 And then there was a word cloud on there. We took out some things that just they were of no value. It might have been nouns or whatever, but we can get creative on it, but we could also just easily just display all that stuff. So if that's something that the community wants to see, I don't see any reason why
I
it would
think
be an
they're
issue.
eager to see that.
Right.
I-
Is there any further discussion about that?
Would anybody oppose sharing that information?
No.
No, right?
Nope.
All right, Pete, thank
Pete,
you.
Pete, you're good?
Cool.
Okay, so I think we could
Do you mind making a motion?
make a motion to vote on sharing the results of
second
the
it.
survey.
Any discussion? We need to take a roll call. Ed, we'll start with you. Ed.
Aye, Brian?
I, Garrett Kern.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Bernadette Waystack.
Hi, David.
Pete.
Hi, Peter.
Cool, thanks. All right, website tools, we're trucking along. I'd like to then step away from E, F, for a moment. We'll come back to those. Sharon, we're very excited to take advantage of you being here. There was an inquiry to the committee, to myself, from Chair Board of the Select Board, Mary Anderson, that when the housing production plan would be complete, and the timing was that it would be complete ballpark this spring, a draft of it, just so for everyone aware of that. Per open meeting law, there was not a discussion by email. But again, to the discussion of transparency and sharing information as we go, I would say that's useful to share as we go. I think that's been in the spirit of the committee as we've been talking about it. So could you weigh in a little bit, since we have the timing of the housing production plan, so it's already October, so we're talking spring sometime. Recreation plan and then the local comprehensive plan, just remind us, and we're thrilled to have community members here, yay, welcome. Remind a public meeting, we're glad you're here. Remind us of the sort of what our overall timing is, the process of being approved by both the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board formally, town meeting, eventual Cape Cod Commission. Yes.
So your overall time frame for the LCP, as it was at least spelled out to us.
Even though we're missing a town planner, but we
Yes,
persist, yes.
And you guys, you're all doing really, really well, is next fall special town meeting for the LCP. And so
Okay.
that, backing up from that, the housing production plan, as Karen said, a draft in the spring is really good timing, because that gives you a summer, basically, to take that plan in draft form and then integrate that into the rest of the local comprehensive plan, in terms of strategies. There might be other strategies that are not covered by the housing production plan, so at that point, by spring and summer, you should be getting into, draft actions for the comprehensive plan. So having the housing production plan available as a draft in the spring is really good timing, and that was purposeful on Karen's part, is to make sure that that is integrated into the comprehensive plan. And the open space and recreation plan, we anticipate a similar schedule, perhaps by early summer, for a draft open space and recreation plan as well. Same thing, that the data and the information, the inventory work that goes into that will help inform the overall comprehensive plan as well. There's a lot of really good data and information about trends that are compiled as part of the open space and rec plan. So those are kind of, they'll track along, with the spring, early summer. And then, so your goal is to get to a fall town meeting. I don't remember if it was October or November town meeting, next fall, if all goes well. And then Cape Cod Commission certification is after town meeting takes place. That doesn't mean that the commission just sort of sits off to the side and isn't involved. We hope that they will, and they generally do, will be involved in looking at things like your goals, existing conditions. So as we prepare draft elements, Cape Cod Commission staff can be involved in taking a look at those as you go along to make sure that everything is consistent with the regional plan. So, but commission certification of your comprehensive plan happens after town meeting. So that would be in hopefully the November, December of next year, wrap up, about a year from now, if all goes well.
Yeah, which is, a lot can happen in a year, but I think as we've been very diligent and working very hard and really committed to a thorough process, it's also a busy timeline. So, but it is time. I think the data and that is all needed. So we'll keep being busy bees and working hard. Yes, Jim?
So we've talked a lot about the housing production plan and when that is and that fits in, but how about other elements of things we're going to consider?
Sure, well, so other elements, so we're going to, you've already done some initial outreach, with the pop-up cards. The formal survey will go out hopefully in the near future, right? And then you'll have information, feedback from that survey. And then we'll be scheduling some workshops, some visioning workshops, so later in the fall. And all those sort of initial efforts will help inform and craft your vision statement and initial goals for the comprehensive plan. So that should take us into the winter, and then in the winter time, will be helping with what we're calling existing conditions. So we'll be preparing these summaries of different elements, natural resources, water resources, capital facilities, and so forth, and writing these in draft form for the committee to review and give us feedback on. And that's a component of the plan as well. So that'll be, most likely, well, it will be this winter, not most likely, it will be this winter. And then again, spring, you should have goals, you should have a vision statement and growth policy, goals, existing conditions. Then it's, those other plans are being worked on, right? So then it's time to start working on an action plan. Yeah.
And I mean, I think just as how we're working as a committee, and then I know you had your hand up, Ed, all this visioning, there's going to be deliberation, which is obviously public and a public format, but my sense is that all this visioning and community outreach is helping that ultimate deliberation.
Sure.
Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, all of those other plans will be the subject of our monthly meetings constantly through is, whereas the housing production plan, open space and recreation plan, they have to be standalone documents, and because of that, there has to be documented separate hearings reviewing those, whereas a water resources plan doesn't require us to do a separate hearing on that.
Yeah, that's correct. So those plans, they do have their own requirements for public outreach, for committee formation. So actually, I should say that our staff time bond has been in touch with the conservation agent in Harwich, and they've already started to have conversations about gathering data and getting going on the open space plan. So we're underway on that. And similarly, Karen Sonnerborg has been meeting with the Housing Trust, and the key people on the housing side to get that plan underway as well. Yeah.
With that, knowing that you're going to turn into a pumpkin at 6, I would like to. No. It's all good. It's all good because we can come back to We can come back to E, F. we banged out G on the agenda. Nice work. If we could kind of. I'd like to go to I, which would be to reviewing the survey in detail, because that's an important deliberative thing that we need to do publicly and together. Kind of it related to you all separately sent the data about the review of the pop-up questions. So we've had close to 100 responses. Just for the record, there's 3 questions that we've asked in a pop-up postcard on that QR code. It's been widely distributed. We're still distributing everywhere and who wants to answer. What do you love about Harwich? What concerns you about Harwich's future? And is there anything you'd like to tell us? We've had about 100 unique responses so far. That had, we have that in a Word document, which we can distribute widely, which we talked about. Thank you for making a word cloud of it. I, at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, presented some of that sort of in summary at about 75 responses, but as part of this process should be informing our specific survey here. So can we dig into this? Let's dig in, should we? I'm just going to go through it page by page. Good?
I went through, I got a lot of.
I know you did. I got a lot. So I got a lot of comments too. So let's go through the beginning. Are you able to take notes? All right. I know, small and big. we're getting there. My summary statement, and then we can, and this is open discussion. We're getting there. I think we still have a bit to go in terms of helping it feel like Harwich's survey, which is why we're here. So, small feedback. The LCP survey is broken down, and what I'll do is we'll go page by page, or section by section. So, first open for discussion is the introduction. Very small point of feedback, but general topics, and should take 5 to 10 minutes to complete instead of should only take. Any other feedback discussion on the intro. Okay. Jumping into then community vision, which is questions 1 through 4. I will just put my points out, then I want to open a discussion. I don't want to want a robust discussion from the committee. In question 2, what most concerns you most about Harwich's future? I thought that given what the pop-up survey has shown, the frequency of the word overdevelopment was pinged, that should probably be a choice. The current choices are degradation of water quality, climate change, sea level rise, loss of village character, traffic congestion, housing affordability. I would put overdevelopment there as an option. Yes,
So,
David.
I actually wrote that down, the exact same thing on that one. Now,
Okay.
I have mixed feelings about that, because these, let's see, we're question number 2. I
That's
believe.
question number 2, yep.
So, water quality, climate change, those are all very specific things. Overdevelopment is a catch-all, and as such is a questionable value standing by itself. On the other side of that same comment, that word was
Came up
mentioned by
over and
far
over and over.
and away.
Yes, yes,
That
correct,
word was
correct.
mentioned more than anything else.
Correct.
The
Correct.
the only other thing I might add to number 2 is loss of open space. So I don't know how you'd word the overdevelopment one, but I agree with Joyce that that's something that got mentioned so often, we've got to take it seriously. Maybe it's just that word. Let me just continue a couple of things I had. Question number 1, again, looking at the pop-up, the one thing that a lot of people talked about, and again, I don't know if there's any value to it, the people, my neighbors.
I think we should put that. I think that there should be a common thread. I would agree.
Would you say, can I just ask for clarification, is it just people, or
Could
if?
Community?
Could that, so option 2 right now there is coastal small town community feel.
Yeah, it was.
So
feel,
could
yeah.
we put the people in that? I would also, this is important, robust deliberation. I come to this a bit when we can vote on this on the end of the discussion. Is my agenda, so to speak, was to myself and actually have another volunteer to form a subcommittee about this, vote on that, to actually finalize this survey. Because I think, and kind of take responsibility for it as opposed to. Just my, Bernadette, this is not just for you, but in question number 3, preserving town culture. And it says parentheses, land preservation, art museums, heritage and diversity. Is that a definition of preserving town culture that you
I
like?
think that's a good one, yeah.
Okay.
Land preservation belong in there?
Land preservation, art museums, heritage and diversity. Okay.
Yep. Because
Okay.
culture is more than arts.
Yeah, I would have
It's
agreed
what makes
with,
a community, it's kind of what makes it.
I agree
Could-
with art museums, heritage, diversity.
Is art museums the
crazy
right
about that.
thing? Could it just be art?
Arts, yeah.
Arts? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, is there a formal art museum in the town of Harwich?
No.
No,
So probably we shouldn't say art museums. We should say arts.
yeah.
We have a lot of artists and a lot.
We have a lot of art,
Well,
but
and
we don't have an
arts-
art museum.
Arts is
Yeah.
performing arts,
Yes,
dance,
yes,
theater, you know.
yes,
Covers.
we
yes,
all-
yes,
And I've said
yes.
this before, that even those of us on the cultural council, and even those of us who are visual artists, you have to remember that it's broader than that. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you
That's
know,
why museums seem
it's
specific to me.
Dino's where everybody used to hang out and,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's
totally.
a lot of stuff.
Pete, on page 1, is there anything you want to jump in on?
No, you,
Okay.
sorry, I'm unmuted. I looked at,
Okay. Anything else on
I
page
got one more.
Please.
This is in the
Good.
category
thanks.
of an almost English major. I don't think you can face a priority at the top of question 3. I think you can face a challenge, or you can have challenges for the top challenges facing.
Yes,
Or you can
yes,
have,
yes.
that's probably it.
Good point.
And if you
Yes.
say 3, you don't have to have it twice. You can say, what are the top challenges facing the town
Yes.
charge?
Choose three.
your top 3.
Yeah, got it. Got it. Love it. Anything more on page 1? Okay. So going on to page 2, leading the charge here. Question 4, what type of growth, which I was confused about that, should the town focus on developing, which I also took a little bit with the semantics of that, and it felt a bit out of section to me. And I wonder if it should be included in question, it should be in the section economic development. Or if that question is really about housing.
It's not just housing.
I know, but I was a bit, we were very specific about housing there, so maybe housing should be more of a, like, if we're gonna say, what type of economic growth should the town focus on encouraging in the future? We have municipal facilities, business industry, small business, no growth is an option, retail, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kinds of specific housing. So that seemed to be confusing 2 different questions.
More than housing. yeah.
Correct.
I was actually okay with this question and keeping it in vision, and I think housing is so important.
Correct.
I didn't mind there being
But it's more
6
than housing, though, it's
I
business.
know, but I didn't mind there being 6 categories of housing, as long as there was also retail, municipal facilities, et cetera. So I was okay with it.
Yeah, but the question is what section do you put it in? It doesn't go here, it goes down below.
Either in housing or economic development.
Not in housing.
Okay.
Economic
Economic
development, maybe.
development.
Okay.
I
Maybe.
also think you're weighting the question towards housing.
Right, which is maybe a
So
little.
if you have
yeah,
3 choices.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And 6 of those choices, or 5 of those choices are housing.
Yeah.
So cut down the number of houses.
Yeah, so I think maybe
Yeah.
just generalize that statement. And then when we get into the housing section, that's where we can start doing the substrates, right? Is that-
And move it to economic development.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes, Ed?
in that you have retail. Municipal facilities. Then you have business industry. What's the difference? I mean, we all know what
And then,
industrial development is, but
Yeah, it's kind of vague.
is business synonymous with, I mean, I think of business as sort of professional offices.
well, and then this is what was maybe why we have to kick it into economic development section,
Yeah.
because there was some more nuanced choices there. What do you think the economic development priorities of the town should be? Tourism, retail, restaurants, arts and culture, health, recreation-based business, green jobs and businesses, small business serving local needs.
Maybe we don't need this question, because the housing is already covered down in
Maybe.
question 7.
Maybe.
And then let's look at economic
Businessy
development.
stuff can be in
Right, because
economic
that,
development.
20 is a better question than 4,
Um,
maybe.
I still like 4. You got the no growth option.
I do like 4.
No growth is an interesting option, just I'm agnostic
I-
about that, but it's interesting.
Based on the respondents so far, I bet some people are checking
Yes,
that off.
yes,
They could do retro growth, they would.
yes.
Ed, could you just say business and drop the industry? Industry feels like an off-Cape concept. We don't feel like we're gonna get much of
Well,
that.
you know, no, industry, I mean, Harwich permitted the first Charles River lab for the horseshoe crabs here, right, in Harwich, you know, I mean, it's major medical industry.
I think there's been topics over the years of people saying that, you know, we need to bring larger business, meaning bigger industries,
Okay.
to town to provide jobs for people.
Back office
You had
in
back
South
office,
Harwich,
food
yeah,
That just got
yeah.
purchased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm sure that's where that may have come from, where it
Yep.
belongs,
okay.
how to word it.
I think we have our sense of that question, committee sense of that question. For education, I would propose that I will reach out directly to the superintendent and ask how that question should be asked. That struck me as we could maybe do better on that question. Would anyone like to weigh in on that?
I think that's a good idea.
I think that's a great idea.
Just for the record, the options are: what are the most important educational needs in Harwich? Retaining student enrollment, which is a sophisticated question. I have a hunch that Harwich is down a kindergarten class this year. Increasing after-school student activities, hiring more teachers and school staff, improving faculty to student ratio, providing universal free lunch, which we can kick that to our subcommittee because that's actually a state issue now and kind of maybe potentially in perpetuity, and offer more humanities electives. But I'd like to specifically engage the superintendent over one question about that.
I agree.
Okay? Arts and culture, Bernadette. How important is it to you that the town supports more public and performing art opportunities? More, or just supports?
Yeah, and it's like, again, it's not just that, it is open space and nature trails and the historical society, it's everything that enriches us, you know, in terms of arts, interpretive science, culture,
See, I wouldn't have read that into that question,
yeah.
public and art performing. Maybe we have to reword that.
Would public and culture opportunities, or how would you word it?
Public cultural opportunities.
Public
Or-
cultural opportunities.
Yeah, and I know, like I said, a lot of us, we still default to thinking of it meaning arts, but,
I mean, I think of like
Kinda my mission.
festivals, I think of.
right, right. We've got a
events, yeah.
huge, we've got grant money coming for the two cultural districts. They just got, Kara just got awarded money again for them, and that's exactly the kind of thing, everything and anything that gets people out and involved and doing things together, and it, you know, it could be an energy fair. It could be,
Yeah.
there's just so much more under that umbrella, and we have to, all of us, we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. Something for everybody.
Could I ask a question regarding that? Would you want to, considering question number 4 in the discussion you just had, would you want to put that also as an economic growth opportunity?
It could be.
Definitely is.
Yeah, it's, you know, I mean, that's,
Not a bad idea.
the Arts Foundation had some data a while back about on the Cape, after the beaches and the golf, the arts are the other driving force for economic development, and that's exactly what the MCC is trying to help provide.
Before we move on to the big kahuna of housing questions, any more discussion on those? All right, let's dig into questions then, 7 through 12 on housing. So, a little background, some of these questions were pulled from the Yarmouth Local Planning Commission survey questions. There is a standard with Karen Sunenberg's support about how to ask these. Doesn't mean we can't make them our own. Question 7, I think, is a powerful one because it really has a lot of different, you choose your top 3 of very specific housing products, just again for the record, from ADUs to multifamily condominium buildings. My main, and then so question 8 is pretty specific, has a lot of definitions. My main criticism of 9, 10, 11, and 12 is we do not provide a definition of little a affordable, and I want to spend some time talking about that. And Sharon, we could put that to you. Do we mean big A affordable housing? Like, if we're gonna use the term affordable, I think we have to be exceptionally precise about what we mean about that.
Mhm. So I would recommend that, that it be, sort of a definition be provided in the, I don't know, I'm just looking to see if affordable comes up in the first, no, 7, it does not. The very first time very first time it shows up in a question, I think we should define it.
Again, you know, based on what the community has told us in those pop-up 3 questions, if we are asking about housing in general, which in 7 we do, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in 9 through 12, there, I think, the pop-up questions have revealed a nuanced understanding of the complexity of the housing issues facing the Cape and Harwich and Massachusetts and the country. And so if we're gonna use affordable, we have to define it, and if we get to the point where we're using big A affordable, probably 4 questions is too much about that. And some of those questions will have to be, we've used different terms around here, middle-income housing, workforce housing. It's not that we're slack, it's that the field is fairly slack with these terms. I'm open for discussion on that.
The one way to possibly handle it is having a statement before you get into the question,
Yeah.
Yeah,
finding it,
yeah,
and making the distinction between
yes, big A, little A.
state sanctioned affordable.
Correct,
and
correct.
The affordable
Yes, the affordability of having a roof, yes,
Yes.
many
Yeah.
people need.
right,
Oh.
That's why question 8 is very valuable,
correct,
because it crosses
Correct.
over what is covered by the state definition,
right.
and also what the large number of pop-up survey responses indicated, which
Yes.
is not the state definition.
Correct, correct. Is not the big A, but is a more nuanced income. So yep,
But there are sometimes when you have to respond to public opinion, and sometimes when that shouldn't be your only source.
no, I mean, I think there's a role from our deliberation and from our information gathering, there's a role to ask about big A affordable housing, but probably not 1, 2, 3, 4 questions.
Yep.
That if question 7 and 8 is good, maybe we need like 7, 8, and 9, and then 10, 11, 12 is more,
Yeah, one term, I mean, the term, workforce housing, it's all a term of art, and it's changing constantly. One term that's been used a fair amount is attainable, and that's getting a lot of traction. I know, working with the town of Truro, they spent a lot of time talking about this.
yeah.
And another is, again, this has been around a little bit longer, is missing middle. So
Yeah, the moderate income, which that's why
Sort of gets
question
at
8 is so
Yeah.
excellent, because it provides a specific definition. Somebody's middle is different than somebody else's middle, but this is actually putting a dollar amount on it.
And it doesn't use the phrase workforce housing, but it
Correct.
talks about workers. 8
Yes.
is very good, very strong.
8 is a good question.
I think Karen did that on purpose.
Yes.
But, certainly perhaps a separate question, or breaking this question into 2 questions, because it does talk about
I
all of
just-
these things together.
I don't want the housing section to be muddling. I think we have a
Right.
really unique opportunity to be very clarifying around this in terms of the discussion in the town.
See, I don't see a lot of value to 11 and 12. 'Cause
Correct.
we already know that it's an important issue to the town.
Right.
So asking.
So, and it also just sort of muddles the issue and leaves it open to sort of, there's political interpretations
Right.
going forward, as opposed to actually giving some data.
It's already a loud issue,
Correct,
so.
correct.
Do you guys
Number 9 seems like I thought it was an interesting question about eminent domain.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just one mechanism a town can use to help with the development of affordable housing, and it calls it out specifically. I'm not really sure why that's the case.
And David had suggested it, that you wanted it to include
Or-
this. I'm sorry to put you on the spot,
That
but,
one?
It's
That's
also, is it a Margot
I know, I'm
question?
losing.
It sounds very,
or you could say, or other.
it's an Ed question. Ed's taking, Ed's
Ed did
taking.
very technical.
Ed, please, tell us more.
Well, it's, well, it's not only the question of whether we should do that, but there's a number of things that the town has no problem doing for solving our wastewater problem. Eminent domain takings for pumping stations and passing bond issues to pay for the thing. But those aren't, if we consider housing equally an equal crisis, then we should be.
So to your point,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Quite, if you had a magic Ed wand, and
Yeah.
you were going to ask this, eminent domain, would you use the big affordable, or would you use little a affordable, or would you use attainable, or
Well,
what are you asking?
personally, I wouldn't define it by big A or small a, because that's the box that the state, with their programs, force us into. And what we need to do is have some mechanism where the town can develop the housing that we need without being constrained by, well, you use this money, so you can only service up to 100% income families. You can't go over that. But by doing a bond issue and providing our own funds
Got it.
rather than.
So
require-
you're saying, I get what you're saying. Maybe
it's a
maybe
question.
attainable, or to help address housing needs in Harwich is what you're asking about.
How much, are we, basically it comes down to, are we really serious about doing what we can to actually address the housing problems? Because, just developing big A affordable housing.
Correct.
Ain't gonna do it.
So number 8 talks about preference for prioritized housing. Can we follow up on that wording, prioritized housing?
But this sounds like are we serious about the tools that we might want to apply?
Well,
So,
and-
but if we are going to define affordable, let's just say we decide it's premature in this survey to say whether it's big A or little a. But we will want to talk about the category as a whole, whether that's prioritized housing or below market housing or I don't know what. But and
So-
then somehow drill down to possible techniques, such as you're just saying.
Yeah.
but if you look at question 8, and you have, I don't know how many different, seven different categories.
7.
The top 4 are sort of groups, specific groups where I say we need to help this group or that group or that group. Whereas the last 3 only has to do with income levels.
With it references with
Two separate
citation, the HUD definitions, yeah.
Yeah,
2 separate questions.
So
yeah,
the-
they're really
Yeah.
2 different categories, 2 different questions to ask.
I kind of agree with what 9 is going after, but maybe without calling out eminent domain specifically. Is there a way to ask, do we think we're constrained by existing tools? Have we done enough research on art of the possible? I'm just kind of brainstorming. Have we exhausted all possibilities to address this problem? Do you agree? And just see what the consensus is. Have we?
Or even going a step further and taking the research that Ed has done. I know he's done an extensive amount on this, but even maybe listing some of those tools in the
Yeah,
tool belt.
yes.
And saying, hey, here are some of the things that are at the town's potential disposal.
Do you-
You know, would you rank these in
So,
order on
and
things?
and what would you, I mean, we've talked about this in our public meetings, we've talked about eminent domain, we've
Yeah.
talked about deed restriction.
We've talked about bond issue.
Bond issue.
We've talked about one of the other tools that the town, doing a home rule petition to increase the level of income that the housing trust can participate in developing housing for. I don't know how to say that. Anybody would understand it, but
But the ones you're not mentioning, some of them aren't here, are the percentage of units in a project.
Inclusion
yeah.
of
That's a
zoning.
different type of,
inclusionary zoning.
yeah, or
You know, those sorts of
anything
things.
related to density. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of.
I think like maybe if maybe the subcommittee that gets together maybe gets a list and
Yeah, yeah.
breaks that list down, but maybe even needs to define it just like we did above, like what those tools are a little bit, so the community's aware of what they're signing up for.
But would that be an EG, or are you really trying to put them in a ranked order and asking people to check the box? Because I wouldn't know enough about what some of those are to say whether they're a
ahead, Sharon.
preference.
Sharon?
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
going to suggest is like an example given, because also the housing production plan will get into these, all of, sort of discussion of all of these tools as well. So it's going to actually specifically analyze that, and I would agree that the average person probably won't
Yeah, you know, the
understand
pros and
all of
cons
these
of like
things.
deed restriction versus,
So
yeah.
that's not for
Probably
this,
say
not
don't
for
know.
this survey, but at a later date.
Probably.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we're trying to get to is, does the town
What's the
feel
population
willing
that
to-
right, do they feel that we have exhausted our possibilities?
Okay. Pete, you have some considerable professional expertise in this area. You want to, have any thoughts?
I think that I struggled with the semantics too on all of this stuff. And I think the conversation's good. I'm happy to participate. I prefer to be in the room when these conversations
Okay,
happen.
that's
because
cool.
I'm really listening.
It's all good.
I'll hang back and,
Cool.
but Ed's comments, especially about inclusionary zoning, are important. And I think that we need to be really careful with how we word this. I do think that a preamble or a preface with some of the existing definitions, even if we choose not to use them, is important for the community.
Cool.
You know, for example, if I
Thanks, Pete.
could, question 11 is very general, but in a survey like this, that might be, that and maybe another question or two might be at the level you want to get to for a visioning and goals kind of survey. Knowing that, there's a lot more detail to come. But I took notes on all that. I do think a definition at the beginning of this section is a really good idea.
Bernadette, anything before we keep trucking? Okay. Everyone, we are the essence of inclusive here. I want everyone to have their opinions heard. Transportation and mobility. I had no real feedback. A town should address instead of town should provide. Transportation-oriented needs the town should address, question mark. I was educated a little bit about this is kind of the importance of this. Is everyone happy with these questions?
Are we still in transportation?
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple comments. Wordsmithing, number 13, transportation-oriented actions the town should pursue
Or address, okay,
or
yes.
address. Yeah. I like 13, I like 15. I haven't been able to figure out 14.
I agree. I think 14 and 15 kind of ask the same thing, right?
They are a little redundant, I think. I
Yeah.
would agree with you.
Can get rid of 14. Nice, check it off. Open space and recreation, we should spend some time on, because this is a groundswell amongst us. I've been kind of saying it, and it's unfolding on the socials as we speak, in under 50 crowd, I would say. A very robust debate, or maybe frustration where the town, right, so I could say it's probably 1.25 or 1.5 FTEs in the rec department right now, where those energies have been focused on both summer full-time childcare and after-school childcare. And they're very, very realistic limitations about how many man-hours do you have. There is a lot of anger on the socials amongst, we don't have, enough soccer, we don't have enough basketball, field hockey we're not hearing about, how are the kids of Harwich learning to swim? Basically a cry for more rec resources. So I think we should probably ask about that. Which,
You'd see the same cry for older.
amongst the senior crowd.
It'd be interesting to know how much we spend on kids versus older adults in terms of these.
And I would look at that per individual. If you were to look at the population,
Yep.
we got more over 50 than we do sub 14.
So my thought was the open space and recreation, which I know there's some very specific benchmarks we have to hit about asking about that if we're gonna actually have an open space and recreation plan. So in your opinion, so question 16, which type of open space does the town need more of? Open space for recreation, agricultural uses, habitat protection, water supply protection? It's probably a pretty darn good question.
We clearly want the.
That's my little yard on Mid-Pine. How important are specific recreational programs for youth to you?
Why just youth? I mean, I like youth, but
Well, so question 21, community services. I think we should probably put that in the open space and rec, because then you ask, what do you believe are at the top, what do you believe are the top community service priorities for the town? We have our seniors, we have before and after childcare, which is incredibly important. Enhanced community programming for seniors, enhanced community program for children. We love all of our Harwich citizens. Services for young adults, services for working families, increased police and fire services.
That should move, yeah.
That should probably go into go into open space and recreation. I don't know about the police and fire.
That's public safety.
I know, and maybe that should that be an infrastructure question?
It feels more
No.
like
No.
an outlier with the rest of
Yeah, I don't
it.
think
Right.
that fits there, yeah.
Right. Could we just ask a yes/no question of, kind of like question 15, the town needs more police and fire services? Extremely important, somewhat important, least important, no opinion?
I don't know that we have to force it.
Okay. I want to include that's incredibly important public service, but I agree, it shouldn't be an open space and recreation, and it probably doesn't need to be with community program for seniors, community program for children. We can table that.
but it is a community service. That's
Yeah.
the right heading.
Yeah,
Maybe it's not packaged right.
yeah, I think that's the issue. Yeah. You can't put it next to.
When I hear the term community service, I'm not equating it with, life and death,
Right, I'm not either.
emergency services.
A question on.
Until your house is on
Big
fire.
enough umbrella to, you have
Until
to
your
be
house is
there.
on fire.
So maybe we should have a separate, we have plenty of sections that have one question, and maybe we should have a public safety
Soccer is
question.
good, but I
And,
want
it hasn't been top of mind recently, but not too long ago, there was a robust debate, the East Harwich Fire Station, so maybe we should have a little public safety section with a question.
Or a health and safety section.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah, that broadens it, but puts
Yeah.
it in sort of the right bucket.
Okay.
'Cause it should be getting attention on itself too.
Joyce,
not
we got
getting
4 more minutes
caught
before
up
she
in-
has to.
All right. We're doing it. Climate change and sustainability. That's question 18, 19. We talked about question 20, economic development is going to be merged in committee with our growth discussions. Community services, we talked about. The infrastructure question, I think, was strong. My one question, does anyone have thoughts about climate change and sustainability? I thought question 18 was maybe a little specific. Improve shoreline stability along Nantucket Sound. It's a very specific question.
So are you on
18.
Okay,
Okay.
18 and 19, is that too much? Is that not enough?
that was good.
think it's.
I think the two are fine.
Yeah, I think
It
it's
seems
fine.
balanced.
Okay, okay. And then coming up the last page, question 6 and 7, we really like our demographics, 28 and 29. We like our open-ended vision response questions, I think.
What
Ooh,
question
so-
are you on?
Sorry, all right, I'm jumping around.
26, 27.
No, you're right, David, you're keeping me honest. You're totally right, David. Let's go back to infrastructure. 22 and 23. Do you have
Only
thoughts?
one nit on 22, I don't see snow plowing in that list. And I don't agree with snow plowing on that list.
Enhanced snow plowing operations, all right.
Is it because we haven't had
Infrastructure
snow for a while?
Right.
Well, no, I mean, infrastructure improvement, enhanced snow plowing operation.
Okay,
That
no,
may be more of a safety
Yeah,
service question.
that would be okay.
ooh, put it with the police.
Yeah.
Well, that's a separate.
Snow plowing,
So we're gonna
okay.
put it right after the climate section, right?
All right. 23, how important it is for the town to enhance parking options
Wait.
during the summer months. Ooh, go ahead.
On
22,
22,
yeah.
the alternative wastewater treatment options, that's been mandated by the DEP. We don't even need to ask. It's gonna either happen in 5 to 20 years, so.
Okay.
Which one?
22,
No, but what's
infrastructure.
it? I didn't
The
hear what was-
alternative wastewater treatment
Oh,
options.
okay.
The innovative alternatives are getting pushed from Moore-Heal and the DEP.
So does that also take out implement a public sewer system? No.
I don't necessarily know that because there's multiple phases and.
Okay,
um,
all right,
Yeah.
got it. 22, parking. I had so many thoughts. Parking Harwich Park, Red River Beach. I don't feel strongly about it.
Yeah, it needs to be there.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, the issue is it's such a different question if you live
Yeah.
right behind Main Street.
Yes.
That it-
Specific,
Yeah, it's a village-specific
depending on where
thing,
you
yeah.
live or work or,
We could separate that out, actually, interesting.
but
Like that.
small businesses will.
So what do you mean by enhanced parking?
I think the question could be improved.
And
Have one parking?
You mean more parking, or do
I-
you mean
Need more parking.
we charge for parking in order to fund putting a second duck on the schoolhouse parking lot? Which has been suggested.
Yes. I guess I would like the committee's opinion on how do you want to ask about parking?
Do we put that in the character of the village section?
I know.
Kind of fold into 22?
I guess the
Now,
important
could
thing
it
is, if
just
you get that
infrastructure?
question answered, we should be able to know.
What that it
I don't know
is.
why it
No, but
doesn't need
where
to be
people
called
live.
out by itself.
Correct.
Right?
Oh, maybe Brian's point is just put
Yeah.
it in infrastructure, parking as a general question. Into
It'll
20.
fit within the
'Cause
priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
To Sharon's point, we'll cover the alternatives later.
Yeah.
Community village historic character. I think this is maybe a secret sauce of making this survey Harwich. It's good. Open-ended vision response. And then the demographics, 28 through 31.
27,
Yes.
what concerns do you have for your village neighborhood? I'd like to know which village or neighborhood they're
Well, you,
from when they.
you get
answer
it
that.
down, question 33,
Okay, thank
so
you,
you can separate it out.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Silly me.
Awesome.
Probably should put that question right after 33.
Nah, it's okay that way.
Any further discussion about the survey?
this will be more honest.
So my question's taking minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Never will I volunteer again.
This is a tough one.
Have we come to conclusion about the wording here, or was this a discussion about?
So this was a public deliberation discussion about the sentiment of the survey, and then I would propose, which is open to discussion and voting, that we appoint a subcommittee of myself and some other volunteer who will work with Sharon to finalize the exact wording of the survey, and that is compliant with the best information I have about open meeting law, and it has to do with the number of us deliberating, i.e. two working with Sharon, and Sharon, you have a lot of expertise in this. Please weigh in if you think that meets the standard.
That would be really helpful. I think,
Okay.
I think it's always very difficult to
Yeah.
draft by committee, so I got a really good sense of where you're going with this, so this has been really helpful input.
Yeah,
But
that-
it
and
would
I
be
think-
helpful to, you know, to bring it to closure with a smaller group.
And I think the one thing you should do is take into consideration all that you heard in this discussion.
I would probably misusing the word fiduciary, but I would say that that's a fiduciary responsibility, yeah, right.
I motion to move to vote to create a committee that will.
We have to have
organize
somebody to volunteer, okay, or just one,
Volunteer.
okay, Ed wants to volunteer. Motion of two, is that, two is probably enough, right?
I think so.
Or three? Okay.
Oh, do
You need two to have a committee.
Right. Is three too many? That's why I was wanting to,
If you go to 3, I would volunteer as well, but it's up to you folks.
You know, you
do
could,
three?
three?
technically,
It's not the majority, right?
You can't have a quorum.
Okay, so why don't we have three? 3 minds are better than 2, I
Yeah.
think.
And
appreciate
that. Are you involved in it too then?
She's not a committee member,
Not a committee member.
Not a
but-
committee member.
consultant.
I'm the drafter. I mean, although I can certainly, you know, participate in if you want to do a virtual meeting or something like that, or if you want to meet amongst yourselves with the markup that I, you know, the notes that I took today,
Yeah, no, I think the committee of,
meet offline and,
the
yeah.
proposed committee of 3 is compliant with both the sentiment and the letter of the rules. So you made a promotion, yeah?
May I now motion the great committee to move forward with the
Great,
subcommittee to formulate the survey questionnaire.
I
Second.
second. Well, you can't second, you're on it.
And is there anybody for any discussion?
No.
Okay, we have to take a roll
Pete
call
Corey
vote.
is saying no.
Pete, want to start off the roll call?
Aye, Peter.
You approve, okay. Ed?
Aye.
Aye, Brian.
Aye, Garrett.
Aye, Joyce.
Aye, Jim.
Hi, Bernadette Waystar.
Aye, David,
So the,
if you wish.
Okay.
I think you
All right, I'll
We
get
know-
this
we
out.
know.
Is there anything else you need from us before you're able to depart? Anything?
I don't know if it's, I can't recall. if it's-
Meeting's still going, but she's just gotta leave.
If it's
Yeah.
on your agenda tonight
Yes.
or not, but you know, if it's not tonight, to maybe start discussing some possible dates for workshops for visioning.
It is not on our agenda, so we should probably not, and it has been on our agenda in the past, and we have talked about it. I think we have a general idea, and I'm pretty
think you did
comfortable.
decide
Yeah,
to
I'm
wait
pretty,
until after
I'm
the
pretty comfortable
holidays.
as committee chair, maybe just you and I setting them going forward, having
Okay.
deliberated the committee
Okay.
before.
So,
Yeah.
so what I have written down is that we've approved a motion to form a committee,
Subcommittee.
a subcommittee. We have to vote on 3 people who just, Jackson should be on it.
I think we just did it unblocked.
I voted on block.
That was part of his motion.
Okay, it was part of the motion.
May I ask Sharon a question before she leaves?
Please.
You were, when we last met, you were gonna start to work on a timeline, like a single page, single frame timeline that we could start to share with people as we're having interviews and workshops.
okay.
Have you been able to get something started
Oh,
on
I
that?
apologize, I just neglected to do that. Timeline for completion of the
Well, the
comprehensive
whole, you know,
plan?
the end-to-end project, because right now, and it only has to be kind of at a quarter-by-quarter level, right? You know,
Okay.
a very high level, right? In fourth quarter, we're in,
I think it was great, maybe like just what you helped us with initially, kind of understanding like, hey, by fall 2024, this is where we're gonna be, so.
because we get asked as we start having conversations with people, you know, what have you learned and where are you? When can we expect visioning? When can we expect certain deliverables? And it would be nice to, for all of us to share the same document.
And we could post that on the website.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, that would be a good thing to post on your website as well. Sure, I can provide that to you after this meeting. You don't have to wait a month. I mean, I'll get one together for you, because we have one from our proposal.
Yeah.
So we can modify that to make it look a little
Make
more.
it current, and if we had it, we could have it at the table at the Cranberry Festival too, because people would be asking questions there,
Sure,
so we'd have it.
something that's
Thank you for the poster, by the
graphically
way.
pleasing, hopefully.
Yes,
Yeah.
lovely, graphically pleasing.
I think for these workshop things, we're generally thinking of November. Yeah, before the end of the year,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay, that's all right. That's what I thought that we had
Yeah.
talked about, which means that we need to start planning soon.
Yes. We have, well,
What are we in
we're
October?
digging into the survey here, so we have addressed H and I on the agenda. We'll let our lovely consultant Sharon go, and we'll double back to E and F. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thanks, and I will definitely get you that timeline. So thanks for taking this out of
Oh.
order. I appreciate it.
Okay.
We appreciate all your help. Thank you for your work, Sharon. We're grateful for you. Thank you. We'll stretch for a minute.
Does the subcommittee meetings get posted? Is that warned?
Yes, they need to,
That's what I thought.
and they need to be.
With agenda?
Huh?
With agenda?
Well, the agenda is discussion of survey.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a single, but, you
Tell,
know,
tell me more about that.
Yeah.
it- it's a subcommittee,
Yep.
it's a part of this, so it needs to be noticed, a time and a place listed where we're gonna meet.
Okay.
Or if we're gonna meet online, you can do that.
Okay.
We don't have to meet online, do we?
No, you don't.
This sort of subcommittee, I would say, that's an unnecessary complication.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
But, you know,
are they done in advance, or are they done, I mean, how do we do that?
Well, I post it every month.
Yeah.
At meetings at the agenda.
Needs-
Okay.
needs to be
The same
posted.
standard. It's gotta be like 48 business hours before
Yeah,
that we're having the meeting. Okay.
you know, and it
Okay.
needs to be in a public place,
Yeah, yeah.
not like
At my house. Okay.
we're
Okay.
at the seal for over a year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, for the public to participate.
Yeah,
This is a transparent process. Yeah. Okay. Needs to be posted. Okay. E and F related to all that, and this is, I think, we can be a little more discussion. This is an important part of this committee. Review of interview guide and documentation. So Brian made a very lovely interview guide that you might find helpful as we start to go out and talk to the community. Thinking a little bit out loud about this in several issues, you raised the very good question of like in taking notes, just taking notes.
Even in scheduling said meeting.
Right, so it's not a formal subcommittee, it's a visioning process. So one or two of us, as long as there isn't a quorum, going out and, talking to, like you did talk to some pastors, is part of this visioning process, and I think is accepted standard in the other town local planning committees.
Good.
So I think you're good there.
All right.
Taking some notes, this is maybe a question for the committee. We have this robust document drive. Should we make that public?
I don't know, I would think that we'd want to keep it anonymous, right? I don't know that we want to have notes ascribed to individuals if how would we do documentation of workshops, meetings? How do we do that for interviews and?
So like if you went and talked to 3 members of the board of the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
Well, you describe the comments to the Chamber of Commerce,
Not to the
not to the
individuals.
individuals.
'Cause
Some individuals really don't mind.
so maybe the general sentiment, because it is important that we are keeping a record of the visioning process. So to Ed's point, without specific,
Would it be similar to the bullet, not hopefully as lengthy, but the bullet pages that I put together after the East Harwich
Yeah.
citizens
Yeah.
group?
My example is, that's a good example. I spoke, Joseph, I spoke with Bob Doan about the proposed affordable housing
Yeah.
project in North Harwich, and I put the notes on that, on our site.
Good. Okay.
Now, I've been doing this public stuff for so many years. When I do something like that, I always do it in a way that I don't think will be damaging to the person that I've talked to, and that if it is a public document.
right.
So I think if we're just conscious of what notes we're taking
Yeah.
and not throwing anybody under the bus, then I think it's good public information.
So this was my point of we are a little bit of trailblazers in the town of Harwich about this, and I think it's important. I would bring to the committee for discussion, should our G drive that has, ranging from like, just, quick documentation of here was some public outreach and this was the sentiment, but then also includes like documents we have reviewed and deliberated on, like Cape Cod Commission guidelines for local planning committees. That's, our G drive ranges from those two things. Should the whole G drive in its entirety be on the website? Be of public?
Is there anything on there that you think should not be public? Anything that's particularly questionable?
I'm looking at it right now. There's just a ton of files.
Most people couldn't care less.
I think we should hold ourselves to a pretty high standard of, hey, they reviewed that.
I think our biggest charter is to evangelize what the community feels, and we should be able to show a record of that process. And I think the more transparent, the better. And if they want to take a look at the work, I say go and spend several weeks doing it.
I personally, just on a technical issue, actually, to you, it's a more of a, I'd probably, because it's on my G drive, which I'm fine with. I can create a Harwich-specific G drive.
We would have to talk to IT about what would be a public G drive that we could use, because you are correct.
Yeah.
You don't want to give everybody access
Yeah,
to your.
no, it's not editing. I can make it Joyce McIntyre in Harwich as opposed to.
We should put it here.
It
But
should be a
but it's
town.
different than just making it discoverable. I think that's one thing. The other is what we would want to point people towards is something that is organized
Yeah.
and it's.
So maybe that's what we do, is we maybe talk to IT about getting a
Okay.
Harwich-specific G drive that we all can share into, and we'll have edit features, and then
Yeah.
the community at large can look at it.
The community at large, to be clear, just so everyone understands, this only has viewing privileges. Yeah.
And some way to have it organized, like,
Yeah.
the documents that we got as examples.
It's actually, it's not badly
terrible,
organized. We could be
There's a lot of
better.
folders that are
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
I think this evolved as we evolved.
Yes, it
Right,
did.
right,
So
right.
you kind of see our path.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if one of you two guys could stay here with your computers and show me how to get into it, because I haven't been able to find it.
But I do think there ought to be a top drive, which is where we really want people to go to get to synthesized
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So it's not that we don't mind people crawling
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
rest of it.
yeah, but here,
But
you,
we just
yeah.
don't, we don't want to encourage it because
Right.
you're on your own. You
Right.
know, it's not.
No, and
Good luck understanding that.
That's my point.
Yeah.
to David's point, I don't think there's anything,
No.
I think it's all at a fairly high professional level. It may just be a little disorganized. But
So what we probably then need to just agree on, and we can work on a format that says, where do we put those interviews? They go into a single folder,
Yeah.
and they have a common name, which is who the person
Vice
was
Chair
and what the date
Garrett,
was.
could you
got it.
have the IT, could
We'll
you,
do it.
could you have the IT conversation? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do it, and
Thank
then
you,
we'll figure
thank you.
out the data
So
governance
I did
part.
create an interview guide that's,
Yes.
people can, wherever we want to put it,
Yeah.
so you can pull it down.
So we just had 10 pages or so of pop-up question responses.
Yes.
That go on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and
As long as we find the right
to Brian's point, that might be something that's like maybe in the higher level
Yes,
drive, like
yes.
because there's a community appetite to see that, as opposed to like Cape Cod Commission guidelines
Right,
that we
exactly.
reviewed.
Your
Yeah.
presentation to the select board.
Sure.
Here's a formal
Sure.
Yeah.
deliverable checkpoint or something. That
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
into that
Yeah.
very top.
I like it. I like it.
Roger.
We have, so you've made several references to social media. I'm aware of 2 sites in Harwich, one of which was specifically mentioned negatively in the pop-up several times.
Yep.
So I think one of our goals should be to have a site that people can go to that is a positive site. Easier said than done.
Yeah, I
sometimes.
mean, just to, so that we're never gonna change that. It was.
No, I'm not.
Are you, do you follow, do you?
I don't. Well, I got banged up by that about 7 years ago and
Yeah.
haven't followed it since. so.
Direct information directly from us, and then it doesn't have to be the interpretation.
Yeah. It's for better or for worse, it's a way a lot of information is distributed around Harwich.
But this way, we know it's accurate and it's valid and it's
Right.
ours.
Okay,
Sure.
review, that was section E, review of interview guide and documentation, lovely. So, David and Brian, this is actually, so our last point on the agenda is F, discussion on how to incorporate other groups' work in the visioning process. So Brian very industriously came across the East Harwich old planning document.
Right, from, what, the 2011?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How do we want to,
As little as possible.
Do you mind, I mean, with this, with the privilege of space and time, do you mind contextualizing that a little bit for us? Because I think it's important.
You know, it's hard to get something through town meeting without hardly any adverse comment. But if you keep the people who do that plan to a very small number, and you don't do the sort of thing that we're doing now, then it doesn't raise a whole lot of public discussion. And that's what happened in 2011. The planning board had a very set agenda of what it wanted to do, and it pretty much did it with a subcommittee of 2 planning board members and myself. And there's a lot of good stuff in there, but it wasn't a public process.
That
So-
was the local comprehensive
Yeah.
plan? Yeah.
Yeah.
what about the
No,
East
are we talking about
Harwich
local
section?
comprehensive, or we're talking
No,
about the
no,
East
well, that
Harwich
was included in
specifically?
it. What about the East Harwich section? It was, guess,
That was
done
a
by
very
the,
large section because
Yeah.
that was the biggest topic at the time.
okay.
But,
But there seemed to be,
but there wasn't, there was, you know, the document that Carol Ridley and company pulled together.
I think that was it, right? Wasn't that
No,
the,
she wasn't involved in that one. She would have been,
2016?
In-
let me see if she was on that.
that's something else.
It was the East Harwich Village
That was, yeah, it was,
that was funded through,
Okay, that's
from the
something
commission.
else.
Okay,
I was talking all about the adopted 2011
right,
local
of
comprehensive
which
plan.
East Harwich was a link in there,
Okay, and that was done through the Cape Cod Commission,
right?
and it was just to present some growth concepts
Options.
for East Harwich, which ended up, you know, people loved the village concept in it, but the stronger feeling was it was proposing too much. And Carol led the opposition to it on that basis.
yeah, yeah. That's right, she was, yeah.
And nothing, so nothing happened with it then? So that's the answer, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was almost done as an art of the possible
Yeah,
by Cape Cod Commission and
It
Carol?
was Sue Levin who started,
probably.
and then you came,
Yeah.
yeah, halfway.
It was just,
Here, it was
all of
called,
the pre-designed charrettes and everything
it was called
didn't
the
matter.
East, this is it, the handbook.
yeah, I know,
EVH.
Yeah, yeah.
Because people started running the growth numbers of what could happen
Right.
under the zoning scheme, and it scared people so much that there was no other real discussion.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah,
My slanted view, but.
yeah.
No, there's some important historical context here, which is why I put it on
And I was,
the agenda.
All right.
at the time, I was on the Board of Selectmen, and Larry Valentine and I had a series of meetings with some of the opposing sides, trying to come to some resolution. Wasn't happening.
Well, I've been asked a few times, as I live in East Harwich, and I've been asked by some neighbors what happened with it, and it came up in that, the-
Near the end of that meeting
at,
in August.
Ironically, the very concerns against it now maybe
A resurrection.
are more
Are-
favorable to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if I'd characterize it that.
No,
Okay.
well,
that,
It seemed like the people in the room, Bernadette, seemed to like that plan. Am I wrong?
they like some of the
Some did,
concepts.
yeah.
Okay, so,
But not the size of it.
got it.
right.
No, but some of the concept, I think.
So, yeah, but that's, you know,
is
it's
this
like,
the?
But in retrospect, it's, yeah,
Meeting from East Harwich?
in retrospect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, compared to like the 1 acre.
yeah, because I mean,
Right.
a lot of contention was like, you're damaging the environment, you're getting rid of privacy, you're doing it. It's like, well, there was a plan in place and somebody brought it up.
Mhm.
And then they were like, well, what happened to that plan? And almost the same contingency of people that were for or against what has happened there were also against the plan, but now
Right.
they're for it. It was very weird.
Yeah.
Um,
So all things come around.
People who've been trained in my background, and a lot of other people without any training, You want to have growth center planning. You want to concentrate in a certain area and protect the areas around.
Yeah.
Some
But
of
then you
the,
get into the details.
Yeah, it gets, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and one of the big details, which everybody was hysterical about, is that this may make possible some big box commercial development.
Right.
And
We actually had controls against that.
Yeah.
That's something I think we
But there
were
has been
successful in.
development since, so I think that's why people are.
Yeah. In retrospect, maybe it seemed like a good idea.
Now
Yeah.
that there's development.
They're like,
going on,
remember that thing?
It's starting to happen.
Yeah.
It's happening
Bring
without
up
the
point too, when
plan.
we mentioned the previous plan, or that plan, we are charged with developing this plan on behalf of our community members. We have no control over it being implemented. I think that came up in that meeting too. is-
Well, and this is where we missed the planner, which
Well,
we
but,
could,
I mean, in the end, we are recommending this to
Right.
the select board.
there are some,
And that's, I think, something.
there are
that
some
we-
tools, we hope, with a planner that can put some teeth into this, but,
But I think what's important for us with the man on the street or the woman on the
Yeah,
street is
yeah.
for people to understand that we're gonna do our best to get what we see the community wants for the future out there and in a
Present it.
plan and documented and presented, but then we poof, disappear. You know, we're not, we don't have any teeth in what we are doing.
To that point, I wonder if we should give some consideration to a process by which you hold yourself accountable. I mean, hold the town, select board.
You're talking about hypercare.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
there's-
how businesses hold themselves accountable. to
so,
plans.
This is not a business.
as it's been,
That's
as
the
it's
other
been
part.
explained to me, that is, there are some tools that our eventual planner can use, and, I mean, Ed can articulate too, that even some, if this is adopted, funding options and stuff are supposed to be consistent with
Mhm.
the plan. So
and
it's not all academic, but
And that's.
it's not legislative either, so.
Yeah, well, but what makes it to legislation is all at the whim of the Board of Selectmen.
Right. That's what, I just mean for our own sake.
Select
After-
Board, I'm sorry.
After some of the blowback that I experienced at that meeting, too, it's a lot about people feel very strongly and very passionately about things, but they often are not yet educated to, you know, the whys and the wherefores and what can, and I just think that as we go further into this process, we may at times have people putting us, you know, the screws to us to talk to us about stuff, and not that we shouldn't talk to them and listen to them and hear them, but I think that maybe we also will wanna be able to remind or explain to people that, you know, we're just a volunteer committee that's trying to shape what we hear from people, and that we are not, you know, we're not doing this for ourselves, and that we are not the ones who are able to implement it. We just help create it. It's just, it may come up
think-
over the months to come as we go deeper into the process.
One of our challenges is going to be how specific we end up getting. I think there's a pretty high likelihood we're going to say, we need to have a more balanced community and not just, you know, the second home wealth that comes in, and we've got to do more for working families and housing that works and is affordable to at least some of those people. But then we're going to have to decide how much are we going to say how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a vision, but then how?
Right.
And a group could latch onto it and keep it from being pushed because of that, right? How detailed you get.
But on the other hand, we could maybe come up with suggestions on how certain.
This is why we are robust in our visioning process. With that, we have accomplished a lot in an hour and a half. Yay, committee, we've been very high yield this month. Anything related to a broad agenda, A through I, that we have not covered?
I think you got it all.
Let me ask one last question.
Please.
2011, should we include something in our plan, which is a look backward to say what, what's happened since 2011, or a retrospective, or do we just start clean?
Start clean.
Okay. So I put it out there.
Or
We really
that
haven't
hadn't
finished
happened in between, I think.
We haven't
I like the
finalized.
hypercarriage look.
Brian, I'll
Oh,
bring it back
gosh.
again.
I like that.
I think we were thoroughly
It's a
there.
lot- Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the only way you get adoption.
look forward.
I have no update on a planner. Nope,
Nobody wants the job?
we persist. We just keep working. Work. Thank you for everybody's, Work.
Did they put out, they must have put out,
I believe it's posted.
Yeah,
it's just like anybody who wants to go to Harwich.
or can't afford to.
Well, there's that too.
I'm happy to be here. We're lucky to be here. So, lucky to be here. With that, anything more, any burning desire?
Do we open up public comment?
I was gonna ask, we're delighted to have our visitors. What is it, can we have public comment?
Well, you're supposed to.
Oh,
Yes.
let's have public comment, if anyone would like to.
Problem is, we've never had a public, and.
You may, I am open to public comment.
How do you, given that we've never had a public.
Yeah,
Now that
you're
we
a
have two,
first.
Is that a 200% increase over never having any?
I don't know. The math's wrong, but- You guys have anything to say?
Anything?
You don't have to.
Don't feel under pressure.
You could, I
want a
think you are
tomato?
supposed to, you can have a
please,
tomato. You're welcome to a tomato. I think if you would like to,
It does not cost more than $49.
it did not. I agree with them myself. You're welcome to sit at the seat and so or I can repeat back your question too for the microphone. Sure, please.
Either one.
No.
Hi, my name's John Shorey, and 153 Gorham Road. My first attendance at LPC meeting, and I guess probably the first one to come to an LPC meeting from the public. I don't know, but you mentioned a lot, and I must confess I do not know that much about what the LPC is. I was on the finance committee for 6 years. I know a lot about the financing of the town, but not about this LPC. And I guess it's a town mandate every 10 years. We're supposed to have one of these plans done. And money was allocated for this plan?
Yes.
And how much was that money, do you know?
50, was it?
That was like,
200,000. I was gonna say
say
200.
195, but
I believe it was 200,000, and that's a general ballpark
yeah. that's-
figure.
no, I was just curious.
And what that is, normally I would refer you to the planner, but we
Yeah.
don't have a
No,
planner.
that's
Yeah,
fine. I just
but
wanted to get-
that's the consultant fees, obviously,
I do remember a number coming by, and I thought it
Yeah.
was like
200,000.
190,000.
Yeah, and to clarify, we have a former professional planner on the committee, two actually. Margot Fenn is away from us this month. I believe the local comprehensive plan is state mandated for each town. It's not just town.
Okay.
Commonwealth mandated.
And you mentioned this survey, which you spend a lot of time on right here. Are those questions on your website?
They will be.
It will be, that's
Yeah,
like
it's in
this G
development.
drive or A
Yeah,
drive? or-
yeah, that's what we're
Okay.
talking about. So yes, the goal is to try and be as transparent as possible, and this is gonna be a, publicly distributed tool.
So how are those, once those survey questions are formalized, how are they going to be disseminated to the public?
So.
You've got 100 responses from
Yeah.
this right
Yeah,
here, which I've
yeah.
never seen this. Is this around town somewhere? or-
It is, and
Office, hot
Okay.
pink box.
you could have a card right
I
there.
know, I
There's a
don't get to-
card there.
I
We
don't
get
get to the
you
planner's
get the
office.
word out as much as possible.
Also on
We've been,
social media.
we've been on TV, we've been, the
I'd never
Board of
heard
Selectmen.
about this.
Have a
until
card.
A couple weeks ago. And, but anyway,
So,
I'm going to disseminate these questions.
yeah, so also by word of mouth, and then I believe we have a commitment from, this is all sort of happening in parallel, the town sort of tech resources to, you may subscribe to some of the email lists of hey, you subscribe to the email list for the finance committee, so you get the agenda and the minutes and things like that. There can be the equivalent for the local planning committee. So basically through town email distribution lists
What
for the
about
survey questions.
Mass mailing.
So
I know there's cost problems.
yes, right. We've kind of kicked that issue down, when we had a formal planner for the town and then don't. So to be honest, that issue was tabled a little bit. There wasn't a huge public sentiment for that it's open to discussion, so we're getting comment, but it is pretty expensive.
Yeah, I was just curious how it's.
Yeah.
So the questions come back. Now what then, if you want to call those like the bone of your,
Yeah.
bones of your
Yeah.
plan,
Right,
then you put meat on those bones.
Right.
If whatever the response to those
Right.
questions are.
to this deliberative process, right.
And I guess I should take a look at the LPC one that was done in 2011 to get a flavor of what.
Sure.
was done.
You know, and it's also helpful if you, to kind of get, because it is a whole genre, so to speak. You know, Truro has done one recently, Brewster has done one recently, Yarmouth has done one recently, and I mean, we've also reviewed as part of this whole process the, you know, off-Cape town plan, you know, local planning committee comprehensive plans, but the Cape ones really resonate. So if you want to dig deep,
Well, if it's a
yeah,
state-
look at Brewster, Truro, Yarmouth. They've got recent plans.
And if it's a state stature, obviously.
Correct.
315 towns. that
Correct,
subscribe to
correct,
town
correct,
meetings have
correct.
I would just interject that it's pretty much a state recommendation. If you don't do one, you're okay.
You're not
But
penalized.
no, right, yeah.
And, I mean, we've been kind of charged with, like, there are certain grant opportunities and stuff you have to have one in place to, like, that's why, for example,
Oh, okay.
so open space and recreation and the housing production plan has been rolled into the local comprehensive plan and the 200K is because the town needs those as well to be eligible for, I would say, both state and federal grants. So, but we're trying to be efficient.
So, once this plan is put together, it goes to town meeting for approval, I guess, right? And you mentioned a fall town meeting. Yeah, so you're making a presumption one's going to be held.
I actually
That's
did
it.
not. That was from Sharon. That was you know, Sharon.
A workshop, not a town meeting.
Yeah, Sharon has the sense of we're having worked with the former town planner that there was a general plan for a special town meeting to approve this in the fall. I would not hang your hat on that.
I wouldn't hang in the hat on that at all.
Yes, I concur.
If
my
I may,
opinion,
and I do jump in way too much, but we're not talking about a town meeting at the moment. We're in the information gathering
Yeah.
stage. The
Yeah.
survey is important, but there's also face-to-face meetings that are important. Visioning
Yeah.
process forums.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about.
But
Not-
Sharon did reference, and it raised my antenna a little bit, that actually the timeline that she had of
It was-
adopting the local comprehensive plan a year from now, fall 2024.
That's
I
what
mean, I heard it too. I let it slide.
No way.
More to come.
I was just curious on
Yeah.
scheduling town.
Yeah, I mean-
Special town meetings are very hard to schedule for, anyway. Okay, so
I
you-
wanted to get to the what we could accomplish tonight, but yes,
So you get the plan together, it
Yep.
goes to town meeting
Yep.
at some point.
Yep.
Gets approved.
yes.
And I guess that's a rub that I've been hearing on this 2011. How enforceable, I mean, you briefly touched about
Yeah.
it tonight, I heard a little, but how enforceable is this? You put it together, goes to the selectmen say, oh, thank you very much for this, boom.
Right.
Goes in a drawer.
Right.
End of story.
And it's supposed to be ratified both the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board, special town, you know, not necessarily special town meeting, but town meeting. Cape Cod Commission has the standard to approve it,
Certify that plan.
to certify that plan as well. It was a discussion that Paul H. and I just started to have when he was with us, the former town planner, is some mechanisms that he felt he could put into the plan to make it, quote, stick. And he's no longer with us. So we are excited to get our new town planner.
But that's what I've heard, the 2011 hasn't been enforced at all.
Right.
You know, I hear a lot of East Harwich development,
I
overdevelopment.
don't know, in Massachusetts, in California, our planning commissions were responsible for holding annually a public hearing to review implementation of local
It can be a
comprehensive.
recommendation on our part.
Yeah,
And
That's
you know,
where I was coming from.
call us overly maybe optimistic, but the thought is if we can be robust enough in the visioning and the community input, that it is a relevant document that is living and is useful to the town. But certainly we're at risk for it not being. But that's why we're to the point, belaboring the point of input.
So that there's really no enforcement
No.
mandates or deliverables from it and stuff.
Right.
'Cause I attended a selectmen's meeting last night, and there was a discussion with a local committee in town, the golf committee, about advisory versus.
Right.
And it was it was pretty clear it was advisory. And so that's what I'm getting the sense, that this is just an advisory
Yes.
type
Yes.
plan,
Yes.
that it's not enforceable or anything. It's just a guidance for the selectmen to say, okay, this is the will from the survey.
It's also a unique opportunity to just sort of have community deliberation and kind of community interaction that hopefully is useful in democracy.
Well,
I think we're,
you've seen how much community involvement.
Yeah, but 100 people to respond to anything in an actually pretty constructive way in a town of 12,000 with minimal is,
we're going to hear it from
Yeah.
that 100, we're going to hear it from survey respondents,
Yeah.
we're going to hear it from people in workshops.
Yeah.
We're hearing it from, when we
Yeah.
sat in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
community
yeah, yeah.
center with probably 100 people in there. It's loud and clear that people.
There's a lot
wanna
of-
see mechanisms.
yeah, there's a lot-
Let's
go ahead,
finish the
please,
thought
go ahead. Mm-hmm.
now. They want to see mechanisms that put teeth into this kind of planning. So I really am passionate about
Mm-hmm.
trying to see us put some recommendation around a framework that holds this process somewhat accountable for at least a check on it. And I'm not saying it's, I don't know what it is yet. We've got,
But I keep saying, we don't have that power,
I know we have the power to make a recommendation. So we have time to think it through. And, I mean, I know it's a world that I've come from. I haven't come from the public space, but I've spent enough time doing this with businesses, with Fortune 100 companies, and, I just, let's give ourselves time to do it. But I think we owe it to the people that we've listened to.
Sure.
To put some sort of frame around this, to try and make this a little bit more enforceable than it was before.
I don't
That won't take
disagree.
much.
The select board appointed us, but we're advocating for the people.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's interesting, as diverse of a set of opinions and thoughts and controversies there's also a lot of repetition. I mean, there's a finite set of issues that are truly at the forefront in Harwich right now that we're trying to kind of harness.
And I guess one of the key things, to the extent that any of it ever gets implemented, is in getting to that point of approval, how much interest and buy-in and excitement this committee can engender in the public, to them seeing that the recommendations that we're making are really possible things, not entirely pie in the sky crazy.
And I think that's kind of the role of the collegiality and the rapport and the discussion amongst ourselves that we've really tried to develop the tomatoes.
No, I
you know.
agree. I mean, we saw it last, or if you saw the selectmen's meeting or heard about it last night during the public comment piece, the very strong voice was heard from the rec, to the
Yeah.
rec committee,
Yeah.
from a segment of the community.
Yeah.
And the select board, I'm
Yeah,
still getting
yeah,
used to
select
that,
people,
the select
yes.
board,
Yes.
they take notice of that.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. It's very forceful, and I'm sure the rec committee heard about something this morning. So if enough people respond to your survey questions,
Right.
I think the selectmen will listen at least,
Right.
and we'll see what happens. I mean, so-
John, if I may, what was the nature of the recommendations about the rec board?
There was a group of younger parents with younger
Yeah,
children
okay.
who were mentioning that there aren't many rec programs targeted for children.
Yeah,
And I was surprised by that.
What's fascinating is you can kind of also follow it on the socials. This stuff is like in parallel too. That's why like the social media is truly like is another town green, right? I mean, it's neither here nor there. There's been a certain amount of FTEs that have been funded. There's only literally so many human hours in the day, and this is what the priority, the effort has been put towards childcare after school and summer, and those have been very robust. And now there's a portion of the population that would like additional services, and they were articulating that.
Yeah, very vocal. I mean,
Yeah.
according to this group, I think there was only one rec program that was available to children, like swimming was
Yeah,
not available.
I mean,
it goes on and on and on
Right,
about
right,
that.
right,
And I
right.
was really surprised by
Right.
the lack of.
And I'm just outside of the purview of the committee. There is, if you want to see, there's very robust discussion about what was done this summer in terms of like full-time childcare out of the rec center. So yeah, I mean, there's
What
active
that-
debate
what-
there.
Yeah, what that
Yeah.
group didn't do was go to the rec committee.
Right, right.
That should have been their first stop, I think, and made it known to the rec committee, but I
We're
digress.
trying to be good citizens and have this be a very high-level process to
Well,
partner by.
I commend you on your effort. I'll pay more attention. I will actually print, I was mentioning it to Mary. I said, Mary knows a lot about the LPC. And I said, how many pages is that thing? I said, is it about 30 or 40? And she said, you didn't give me a number. How big is the?
It's a couple hundred, I think.
Well, that's, I wanted to print, she said, I think you said a couple hundred. I said, my printer can't print it out. Are the copies available anywhere? Do you know?
Yeah, if you Google it, they're all over. You know, I think they're on the town website. So if
I mean,
you,
no, a physical copy that I could check out of the library and
Yes,
bring it home.
it's at the library.
Is it a library,
Yeah.
Paul? I mean, David?
No kid.
Okay, that's good, because I'm
At
old-fashioned.
least it
Yeah.
was, it should still.
no, I have my papers.
Yeah, no, so, well, thank you very much. I mean, I've been on committees, it's involved, it's a tough task, and just to get the public in. I was on the finance committee, and I think probably in 6 years, maybe I had 20 people show up in 6 years. For a budget, if you add all the pockets,
Right.
it's close to $100 million, and 20 people show up. So this is way down on people's radar screen, I think. But I
Thank you
commend
for being
And I'm
here.
going to be more in tune with it, because I've heard a lot of stuff about the LPC. But thank you, I commend you.
Thank you for
I'll
being
check
here.
out the library. So.
Mary?
Suppose I need to say something. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Mary Jones from Harwich
Hi.
Port. Harwich Port, I must definitely clarify that, or my husband may say something. Regarding the 2011 Local Comprehensive Plan, I actually presented a synopsis about that in a recent group meeting, town meeting, and presented to the attendees there just generally an overview of what it was, if they were aware of it, the history of the 2011 as I found it. I read it. I also am halfway through reading the 2000 Local Comprehensive Plan, because, and also compared to Yarmouth, Barnstable, Brewster, and the fact that they have educational pages about the Local Comprehensive Plan that Harwich lacks. And by the way, I did want to ask you, when was your page posted as far as the committee, and you said
Originally posted?
well, originally posted, or do you have anything about the Local Comprehensive Plan on your specific page, advertising what it is, providing educational tools to bring the public in to understand what it is about?
Yeah, so when we were formed, the page was originally posted. There was limited information on
Yes,
that,
there was,
which
yes.
I would agree with, and that's what we talked about. I think,
Was our
back-
names, the agenda, and the minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that was recognized, and
But
Garrett's been
updates, the
addressing.
reason I ask, I'm sorry, is because I noticed the page changed.
Yeah.
And I noticed that. And my first thought was, did I miss something? Because I thought, oh, wait a minute, did I miss this
What's
altogether?
that, 2 weeks old or something?
I must give a little bit of my background. I spent 25 years in local government with, and also prior to that, exposure to development practices within cities and towns. With that being many years in what the department was sustainable development, understanding the needs, planning, engineering, code enforcement, everything there, then moving over to information technology. And I have my background in information systems and progressively moving to business analytics, data analytics, website design, information dissemination, all of that. So when I first heard of all of this happening, and it was mainly as to come in as another set of eyes and to just understand and listen to what is happening within the town, why the concerns. There was the group that I first attended was back in August. Was it August 15th? And I went there simply to learn. And when I'm learning, I have a tendency to ask questions after I see. And I just started digging to just try to get answers to those questions and started getting more questions. So from that, I'm looking at it as not being the way I look at the progression of it. And I'm so glad that I attended this committee meeting and see the efforts as far as where you're going and the direction you're going in to truly be a voice of the town, of the residents in this town. And that was one, it kind of somewhat answered some of the questions that what happened between 2000 and 2011 as far as the plans themselves. Were the questions that were asked of the 2011 plan truly representative of the townspeople? I see that effort tremendously right here. I really do. And as I define a local comprehensive plan because of my experience with it, is that it generally is the voice of the people. The elected officials say, we want to carry out the service for you, for the town, for the betterment of the town. And the voice of the people say, this is what we expect. And so it is extremely key that the questions be asked very succinctly to get hard enough data. Here's my data analyst's mind in place, to get very hard data that allows that to happen, that gets that true conditions. That what I found is every voice truly is represented in the local comprehensive plan as far as their concerns. But the major concern, if the comprehensive plan is the voice of the people and to speak to your concerns, it can be. So everybody has that voice. The concern of a lot of the public that I am coming to the conclusion of is that there is no tangible recordation that our voice was implemented. But, as you mentioned, with town planner, there are mechanisms that can be put into place, but there also are financial mechanisms, reporting mechanisms that can be put into place that I have seen been adopted and definitely work. As far as townspeople, you said A, here is that straight timeline, that straight line that says this was absolutely done. And it can be, there are those systems that can be put into play right now with resources that you do have. And I hope that, again, with your efforts, they are not lost. And I have been tasked to actually look more into the local comprehensive plan and also report back as far as my findings. This would be my findings, is very positive, very positive findings.
We're here the
And
first Tuesday of every month.
To
so.
be able to, in my findings, state back to everyone that their voice needs to be. So you don't just get the 100 and it stays like
Right,
that.
right.
That the word of mouth can be utilized through us to let them know that their voice can be heard through this. But maybe if they have assurances that there are the recommendations by you, those reporting mechanisms in place, you might get better output with that input. There's
Thank
my
you.
2 cents.
Thank you. Please take a card. You can fill it out manually. Give it to all. You can take as many as you want. There's a pink box down below that Bernadette made that you can put them in. Or if you like a digital thing, you can just take a picture of the QR and it takes you right to the survey. And you can send that to everybody.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you for being here.
Compliment you on
And
your
it's on the
Thank you.
webpage now.
It is on the webpage too.
Mary?
The webpage takes you right to the survey.
Oh, I know.
Right
You have
to-
QR
there
code.
too. Yeah.
And you can put a QR code in the newspaper too.
You would, there's a little comedy about our QR code, so we're really glad that the QR code is working. It took us a while for that.
Mary,
We work very hard.
just a note, you know, we do have a vacancy on this.
Vacancy, an alternate.
No, we have a vacancy.
Jeff Handler was on this committee and had to step down when he was.
We
elected.
kicked him
I
out.
just read that.
We kicked him out. See you
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, we got rid of
We
him.
kicked them up.
Upstairs.
For other tomatoes.
Yeah.
With that, we're right on time, 6 minutes ahead of schedule. Our next formal committee meeting is November 7th,
Yeah.
first Tuesday of the month. We'll keep you posted. I will update you next time we'll keep the first Tuesday of the month thing going. I gotta write our name on the calendar to do it. We keep trucking. In the meantime, the subcommittee will meet very publicly. We'll post. It'll be great.
I'm available whenever you want to do it.
Sure.
Right now.
Not now. Good go.
I'm very,
We'll be in touch. We'll schedule it and post
hard
it.
to do,
Overtime,
but I
guys,
can
we can work with
make
Yeah.
time work, so.
Awesome, Ed. Thank you. I appreciate both of you.
Who's gonna show me how to find the?
I will help you with that.
With that, can we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Jim, above and beyond for doing the minutes. Oh, we all have to vote to adjourn.
Yes.
Yeah,
David, I.
Aye.
Bernadette Waystack, aye.
You still got
Jim,
It's a
Joyce.
formal meeting.
Garrett.
Brian and I.
I watched.
Peter Gory, aye.
Thank you, Pete, for being here.